here's Brody Brazil.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and more importantly, welcome to opening day/night 2023 for the Oakland A's and Major League Baseball. In this video, I'm going to spell out 5 headlines for the green and gold that I expect this season. I'm not necessarily here to do predictions or projections, but I will say this. Coming off a 102-loss season of 2022, I obviously expect that this group is going to be better. I mean, last year there was a bit of trauma after all the trades and transactions and transition with players and personnel. I feel like there's a much more established core and that things have started to tick and trend back in the right direction. So my only prediction is this: the A's will be better in 2023, but how much better? That remains to be seen, and we will obviously measure it in wins. Can they be a 70-something win team this season? I think so. But is it 70? Or is it 79? 79 is flirting with 500. 70 games is a respectable 10 games better than last year. We'll see how it shakes out. But here's what I want to do in this video: spell out 5 headlines for you in this 2023 season. And again, we've kind of been in uncharted territory. The A's in their Oakland history have only had 2 100-loss seasons. The first was in 1979. The second was last year. So it's been a while. They're rebuilding. They are retooling. Let's start on the field. And by the way, these come in no particular order of importance, although I will tell you, hang on for the very last one. That one might be the most critical of all. Let's begin here with the shortstop tandem that Mark Kotsay is going to employ. Now, typically, when you talk about platoon positions, maybe first base, maybe one of the corner outfield spots, it's not necessarily the shortstop position. Usually across Major League Baseball, you've got your guy, and then you've got your backup, and it's as simple as that. But it does seem like Kotsay is going to alternate between Nick Allen and Aledmys Diaz, who comes over from the Houston Astros. Allen obviously will face lefty pitchers. Diaz will face righty arms. Now, I think what the A's are looking for here is offensive production. Both these guys can play a good defensive shortstop. Nick Allen plays a really great shortstop. In fact, just gauging the way he was out there in the field, I don't think it would be a surprise if in the next couple years he enters into the Gold Glove conversation. Again, I'm not handing him the trophy right now after one season. I'm just saying, based on what we've always known about him, he was the most outstanding defensive player in the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. And granted, that's a different level of baseball, but you see where this is going. Allen has always been sure-handed in the field. Can his bat come around? That's the question. And I spoke to him at spring training. He said he did a lot of work this winter, specifically trying to strengthen his lower half body muscles for better control in the batter's box, really trying to control himself in a hitting stance. So Allen hit 257 in spring. Again, spring training stats. Are we really going on that? But he actually started off, I think at one point, hitting 375, close to 400, and then he really just kind of hit a wall the last 5-6 games of spring training. Diaz hit 273 in spring, but again, I think the bigger picture here is that the A's just need a shortstop that can not only play good defense, but also produce at the plate. Because Oakland's team average last year, 216, right? Like, they had real issues getting hits, base runners, and obviously converting them into runs. And so they'll need offensive production from every spot on the field. But I think that's why maybe this is going to start with the tandem between Allen and Diaz. And we'll see where it goes. I don't know that this is an end game situation, and obviously Diaz can play other positions, but you want Allen to be your guy, to be your shortstop. So we'll see how long this lasts, how long it goes for, but Kotsay has said that the shortstop is going to be kind of a platoon situation to start the season. Okay, let's talk about Saturdays. Shintaro Saturdays. You can go ahead and hashtag that. Shintaro Fujinami playing his first MLB season, his first season in North America. He's 28 years old. He's been in pro baseball for a very long time, drafted out of high school in Japanese professional baseball. And again, we're going on spring training stats here, which mean absolutely nothing. But he made 5 starts in Arizona, went 3-0, had a 3.86 ERA, stretched out his pitch count, was able to throw 18 2/3 innings. Here's the deal. Here's the catch. 20 strikeouts in 18 2/3. And I think he had a 7 strikeout game. Was it against Colorado? So he can get batters to chase and miss. But he also had 17 walks in 18 2/3. Now, you kind of extrapolate that across 5 and 6 innings of starts, and that's going to be too many free passes to continue. So location and command for Fujinami are what to watch for. And you hope it goes well, and you hope he's got things ironed out, but he can get batters to miss, right? He's getting the strikeouts. He actually induces a lot of first and second pitch contact. I think he had a couple appearances in spring where he only threw 40-something pitches going 5 and 6 innings. How do you do that? You make batters put balls in play, and you get the outs for them. So there's a lot of positives with Fujinami. The one thing to watch out for is just that control, especially of the fastball, and keeping batters off base with the free passes. But I love the fact that Kate is trying to angle Fujinami into these Saturday starts instead of putting him in a normal rotation, which, typically does have you pitching twice within a calendar week. Instead, for him, it's only every Saturday, depending on where the A's are at in the rotation, who they're facing. They're trying to create something normal for Fuji because in Japan, that's how they do it with their starters. Starters pitch once a week. That's it. And I'm not sure if they do the day of the week situation or if they just stretch it out so that you only make one start every 7 days, but that's what they do. So I can appreciate Kate really trying to make him feel comfortable, not trying to overuse him at first, not trying to overdo him at first. He's a big guy. He still throws hard. He still flirts with triple digits on the radar gun. So I think people are, if you haven't been paying attention to Shintaro Fujinami in spring training, you're going to be pleasantly surprised when you watch his first couple outings. At least that's the expectation. By the way, his first outing, he's not going to go head-to-head with Shohei Ohtani in terms of dueling on the mound, but obviously he will face Shohei Ohtani on the first day game of the season, the Saturday, right? So they play tonight, Thursday night, off on Friday, at least that's the schedule, and then Saturday for game 2, he'll be pitching. Ohtani will definitely be in the lineup of that one. So Fuji, welcome to Oakland. I hope this is something fun. It's a new chapter for him. I know he's highly motivated. Got the chance to talk to him at spring training. Really enjoy the guy, even through translation. You can see there's something cool there, and I just hope it plays out and it pans out well. Okay, from starting games, let's go to the very end of the night in the games for Oakland in terms of their bullpen, the back end of the bullpen. You could say closer by committee, but I have a feeling it's more going to be the back end by committee. You've got Trevor May, who comes into Oakland after being signed this past offseason. You've got Ruiz Familia, who they just picked up. Days ago. Arizona let him go at the end of spring training, and the A's absolutely pounced on it. They brought him in, signed him to a major league deal. And you understand there was probably some competition. The A's probably had their bullpen arms in line, and to get Familia and bring him in and commit to him that fast, it just goes to show you that they saw something interesting. Maybe it was his 1.35 ERA in spring and his 1.67 opponent's average in spring. I think he was pitching well. It's almost a little bit curious why Arizona let him go. And maybe not last minute, because that's when you have to make your decisions, but maybe a really lucky break for the A's that they get to bring back Ruiz Familia. Oh, by the way, look how hard I had to Photoshop that picture of him in the middle. I spent hours putting his head on the A's jersey. No, just kidding. That was from 2018. He's already been a member of the Oakland A's. You obviously know that, but I'm teasing. And then Danny Jimenez, who I think is kind of the expected incumbent closer. That might be the guy you would expect. It's just that last season at the end had the shoulder issues. They said in spring training this year, struggled with velocity. At the beginning, he was only high 80s, eventually got it into low and mid 90s by the end of spring training. But I think Jimenez would probably be the more obvious choice. He's been there before. He's done a little bit of that. Last year, there weren't many save opportunities, but he was good. He was very encouraging as a back-end bullpen pitcher and especially a closer, but you just kind of wonder health-wise how he's going to be, especially to start off this season. And then I kind of glossed over Trevor May, but really excited to bring him in, not only as a contributor on the field, but also a player for that clubhouse. I had a great sit-down conversation with him. In fact, he is the first subject of all A's. It's going to be our April episode. You'll see a full 30-minute chat that I did with Trevor. Great guy, really, really well-spoken, great clubhouse guy. But in his career as a reliever, only 12 saves across 8 seasons. So he has finished games. He has saved games. How many times will we see him as the actual closer? I don't know. And all of this goes to say that if your closer is by committee, then that also kind of means that your 7th and 8th inning guys, your setup guys, are going to be by committee too. Because if your 7th inning guy is closing today, somebody else has to do the 7th or 8th or vice versa. Look, I just hope that the A's are in good situations to close out games, right? With a lead or tied so that they can put in somebody to hopefully finish the job, because that opportunity hasn't come a ton in recent years. But it is important, right? Close games, the slimmest of lead games in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. If you're the A's, right, you need good arms down there to help secure what might be tiny leads that can turn into wins. So this to me, and there's a couple other names here, I didn't mean to exclude anybody, but this to me is going to be the back end committee of a 7th and 8th and 9th inning pitching situation. Okay, let's move on to what I think and who I think could be an X factor for Oakland, and that is Esteury Ruiz. This kind of needs a little bit of just reminder, and not explanation, but more reminder. You know, when Sean Murphy got traded to Atlanta, everybody immediately looked to Atlanta and said, well, what are the A's getting in return? But don't forget, this was a 3-team trade between Oakland, Atlanta, and the Brewers. And what the A's got from Milwaukee is Esteury Ruiz. So in a way, I say X factor like he might sneak up on people this season. People are also going to have to do the research and say, now, where did we get him from again? Because it's easy to forget. Everybody thought, well, Murphy to Atlanta, what's Atlanta giving back to Oakland? Yeah, don't forget, Milwaukee was a part of this deal too. Saw him in spring training, just like he drips athleticism. I mean, he looks fast just standing there. Is that a possibility? Like, have you ever seen somebody who they're not even moving, they're just standing still, and you just look at their build and he looks fast, and he was fast last season. 85 stolen bases in 114 minor league games, and he also played, I think, with 5 different teams, 3 minor league teams and 2 major league teams, the Padres and Brewers. He was traded the mid to late season. But just like take 85 stolen bases for just a second. Now, I realize that's a lot. That's a ton. But that's also minor league baseball. What if you even got half that amount? Now, I realize he's got to play a lot. He's got to get on base a lot to have a chance to get those swipes. But when was the last time the A's had a 40 base stealer? When was the last time the A's even attempted to steal 40 bases? You know what I'm saying? I think a player like Ruiz might be the one to force the issue for Oakland and for Mark Kotsay. And I'm not saying that the A's have been against stealing bags. Like, that's not against their DNA or their game plan. But it hasn't been something they've done a lot of in recent years. And they've had guys that could run. Nick Allen can run. Tony Kemp can run. Ramon Laureano stole a bunch of bases, I believe, was at the beginning of 2021. But they just don't always give him the sign to run. That's not the sign, by the way. They don't always give him the sign to run. And so we'll see if Ruiz is a player who kind of forces that issue. You're seeing him, by the way, making a spectacular catch out there in center field, and that also needs to be discussed too. It's Ruiz making this roster one that Christian Pache didn't even make. Now, you know he was coming in with completely high expectations. I can't even spell the words out for you. But coming over in the Matt Olson deal, like, you want Christian Pache to do the job. And there were a couple other players in a very crowded outfield that made the team, Ruiz being one of them. So it speaks well in what the A's saw firsthand in their initial impressions with Esteury Ruiz. I love the fact that he wears number 1. By the way, the A's have a number 1 and a number 99 between Ruiz and Jesus Aguilar. That might be a first. I don't know that we've had a 1 and a 99 on the same team at the same time. But he made the cut. He'll be exciting. I want to see the guy get on base. And I don't care how the hits or the walks come, but let's get Esteury Ruiz on base. Let's have him patrolling the outfield. I mean, with him and Laureano and whoever else is going to play outfield, I'm assuming, left field might be the open spot. You could have a very, very talented and athletic defensive outfield for the Oakland A's. Esteury Ruiz, I think, is my top X factor. Okay. We've arrived at the end of this video, and I've given you 4 baseball headlines for the Oakland A's. But this fifth headline is all about the deadlines. And as much as I could sit here and talk A's baseball with you about 2023, I think it is so critical for anybody in the Bay Area, anybody that's been a longtime Oakland fan, to understand, sure, enjoy the baseball this year. In fact, give me a second for that. Enjoy the baseball this year. But also understand that what happens off the field between the city of Oakland and Las Vegas and this baseball team, this matters more than any game, any win, any loss, any stat, any trade, any player, any moment, any highlight, any low light, any winning streak. And it all does not matter, but the deadlines do. This is what matters. What happens for the A's and Howard Terminal? Now, in the month of May, upcoming, right? We're a month plus away from this. A 4-year exclusive negotiating agreement with the Port of Oakland expires for the A's and the Port. Now, I don't expect that agreement is going to be difficult to extend or to re-engage. The Port of Oakland wants to have a ballpark at Howard Terminal. They do not oppose this at last check at all. They're very much for developing the 55 acres at Howard Terminal. But without that agreement either renewed or in place, you don't really have a foundation for your home. You can't go out and explore anything further. You can't really have much discussion if your deal is off the table to acquire the actual land which you have fought so hard for, you've won lawsuits against, you've gotten the port priority use removed, you've spent tens and tens of millions of dollars to facilitate this. And again, I'm not trying to blow the whistle here and say this is a deal breaker if it goes through. It should be able to be renewed. This should not be a big issue. But if it doesn't happen, it becomes a bit of an issue, right? That's something to pay attention to. That happens in the month of May. Should we hear about it in the next couple weeks? I would hope so. There hasn't been much talk about Howard Terminal at all, but this is one of those things that's going to force the conversation. It's going to cause speculation if you don't hear much about it. What's the latest? Is this going to be renewed? And how many years will it be renewed for? Do you think they'll do another 4? I think the Port of Oakland probably wants to hustle things up. Maybe they do another 2, but to be quite honest, that should be enough for us to reach a decision on all of this. So the agreement that was set in place in May of 2019, it expires here in May of 2023. So keep an eye on that. There's also this. The lobbying session in the state of Nevada for the county as well as the state in terms of Las Vegas and Nevada, the lobbying session concludes in the month of June. I think it's the first week, 6th of June, if I'm correct. And so what the A's have been doing down there is trying to seek out the situation. What is the opportunity to get public funding for a ballpark, for infrastructure, for everything that's necessary for a potential Las Vegas ballpark? And we don't even know what the primary site is. I know there's the 3. People talk probably in this order about the Rio Hotel site as the newcomer, the front runner. The Rio Hotel site just got $850 million, their owner's dreamscape, to refurbish and redo that property. Maybe a ballpark is part of that. Tropicana is obviously the best and most convenient and closest site. It's right on the Strip. But how hard is that land and property and project to acquire? And then there's the festival grounds, which are northern side of the Strip, closer to the Stratosphere, not all the way by downtown, but just north of Circus. And there's a lot of land out there too. But that one hasn't really seemed to be on the front burner. The Rio site is where it's been talked about. But I digress. What the A's are trying to find out is no matter which one of those 3 sites are it for them that they're going to maybe move forward with, they're trying to figure out how much of a contribution they can get from public money from the county or from the state in Nevada. And so they don't know that yet. This lobbying session concludes in June. By that time, there can be no more lobbying. And I believe the A's have registered close to a dozen lobbyists to operate and facilitate finding out this information with the state of Nevada. And so again, the point is here that I don't know how it becomes public or if and when and where and the likeliness, but it does feel like the A's should know what they'll have in Las Vegas by the end of June. By the beginning of June. And at that point, we'll know what happened to Howard Terminal in terms of the port agreement. Is that still in play? Is that not in play? What have the A's said about public money? And we'll kind of have a comparison of, okay, because we kind of know where Howard Terminal is at. They're stuck on a few things. They're stuck on infrastructure money. Apparently, according to the commissioner, Rob Manfred, affordable housing is still a sticking point. That's the only thing we have to go on, and he said that, I believe, more than a month ago. He's really the only person to have talked about this stuff, but that's what he said. So that's all that we have to go on. But at that point, by June, that's when we should see what the race looks like, where each city is at, what they can offer, and at that point, maybe we get something. Maybe we get a decision or some commentary on it. So look for early June to have some answers. So you can kind of see where this is going. And again, I totally went off the rails here on this video. Like we were talking about baseball, but again, I need to spend a significant amount of time on this. It's important. Unless you're not from the area. If you're watching this video somewhere else in the world, and that's fine. Maybe this stuff doesn't matter to you. But if you are from the East Bay, if you are from Northern California, I'm telling you, this right here matters more than anything else this season because it's coming to a head. So those are my 5 headlines for the Oakland A's for 2023. I am looking forward to opening nights and beyond. It's going to be a busy month of April. Dave Stewart's going to join me in studio. Shooty Babbitt, Bip Roberts, and we welcome in, I don't know if everybody's heard this, Johnny Gomes is going to join us for, I don't know the amount, so I don't want to say it, but a select amount of games in studio to analyze pre- and post-game. So I look forward to working with Johnny, the Petaluma native, for the very first time. So we will see you on television. I'll be doing a lot of A's videos this summer, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And hey, for this video, thumbs up if you liked it. You're still here watching. I appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget that so that I can see you next time.